Do you love trains? Maybe you enjoy multivariable calculus. Well, in any case, you decided to be an engineer, which firmly puts you in the category of neurodivergent. Welcome to the club, my little train enthusiasts, and here are the best builds for the engineer in 2024. The engineer has had a history of being one of those classes that flies under the radar. Some of their skills are just kind of weird or they have weird interactions, but I assure you that this class can literally do anything across its various elite specs, and in most cases, compete with some of the best in the business. Additionally, since it firmly falls in the good but not great category, these builds have stayed remarkably consistent for a long time, oftentimes flying under the radar and being balanced only when absolutely necessary. A good engineer is invaluable, and I'll show you all of the builds you should add to your arsenal to fill in those gaps. The engineer's specializations often have overlap in the roles that they fill, so finding a build that you really enjoy that clicks with you is the critical aspect. Where most other professions have a single specialization that fills a role, the engineer doesn't. So for the sake of this video, I will be picking and choosing what I feel is the best to recommend. So go through the whole video and let me know in the comments if there was a build that I should have highlighted but didn't. And if I feel like it's valid, I will do a one-off like I did for the Power Quickness Harbinger. With that, let's get into the Power and Condi DPS builds, which for the engineer is the Holosmith. And since the Holosmith is overly complicated for what it is, I will also show you an alternate Power and alternate Condi build that covers this role but using a different specialization. All four of these builds are equally valid, though the skill to play them is not equal, so pick one that you like that you can perform and stick with that. For the Power Holosmith, we are running full Berserker gear with Ruins of the Scholar, and you can incorporate Dragon's pieces if you want here. Your relic is Relic of the Firework, and your weapons are Sword, Pistol, and Shield. You use Sous Vide Steak and Potent Sharpening Stones, so the standard power food. Your traits are Explosives 323, Firearms 332, and Holosmith 322, with your utilities being AED, Grenade Kit, Photon Wall, Laser Disc, and Prime Light Beam. Photon Wall is your flex skill, and I would recommend either Throw Mine or Battering Ram for some additional utility or Boon Strip, and it does make it easier to play this rotation. The Engineer gets Tool Belt skills that act as the F skills for the class, and these F skills change when your utilities change. These skills are also used in the rotation. Holosmith's special flavor is Photon Forge, which is used heavily in both the Power and Condi variations. So if you like the Shroud style classes like Reaper, Spectre, or Druid, then Holosmith is more of the same. Like most pure DPS classes, this rotation is complex, with the opener requiring preheating your Photon Forge since you get a damage bonus based on your heat threshold, and the primary skills in your Photon Forge are Skill 3 and Skill 4, so Corona Burst and Photon Blitz. Outside of the Forge, you are basically going to be spamming all of your skills and using auto attack chains. The short answer of how to play this class is using Laser Disc and Prime Light Beam off cooldown, Blade Burst and Particle Accelerator off cooldown, and dipping into Forge between 85 and 100 heat, and also avoid overheating at all costs. Grenade Barrage, Blade Burst, Glue Shot, and Static Shock all trigger your Relic of the Firework, so space them out to maintain the Relic uptime. And if you are interested in the Power DPS Holosmith, I highly recommend you look up a rotation guide and practice. I personally feel like both Holosmith rotations are on par with some of the more complicated Elementalist rotations, so keep that in mind. An easier option for Power DPS is the Power DPS Scrapper. The Power Scrapper runs full Berserker gear with runes of the Dragon Hunter and Relic of the Firework. You can incorporate Dragon's gear if you want, but full Berserker gear works. Your target is about 45% crit chance if you're swapping gear around. Your weapon is Hammer with Force and Impact, Sous Vide Steak or Butternut Squash, and Potent Superior Sharpening Stones, which is standard. Your traits are going to be Explosives 313, Firearms 332, and Scrapper 133, with your utility skills being AED, Grenade Kit, Shredder Gyro, Throw Mine, and Mortar Kit. The key is to spam your F skills and utilities off cooldown while keeping Hammer 2 and Grenade Kit 2 synchronized. So you're going to use Hammer 2 and then Grenade Kit 2. Hammer 5 synchronizes well with Minefield, which is an F skill, and Shredder Gyro alongside your Hammer 2 spin. Function Gyro and Grenade Barrage is another combo to keep in mind, but Mortar Kit skills, the Poison and Freeze, Grenade are all filler skills. So fill the time between your 2-2 combo with those skills. Overall, you will get good results just by spamming, and you'll get the hang of the cooldowns as you play the build. Moving on to the Condi DPS builds for the Engineer, they are the Condi Holosmith and Condi Mechanist, and I'm sure you can already guess which one is easier. Starting with the Condi DPS Holosmith, you are going to run full Viper's gear with Runes of the Trapper and Relic of the Fractal. You are going to utilize Spear with Earth and Bursting Sigils with standard Condi food of Cilantro Cured Meat Flatbread and Toxic Focusing Crystals. For traits, you are running Explosives 312, Firearms 123, and Holosmith 313, with utilities being AED, Grenade Kit, Bomb Kit, Flamethrower, and Prime Light Beam. This build, much like Power Holosmith, is very complicated. It is kit after kit after kit into Photon Forge, into Spear skills, and frankly, like with all the other classes that rely on the use of a ton of skills in succession to do their damage, I frankly don't feel like it's worth it. For those of you who are super ultra sweats or want to be elite Engineer players, then you can include this one into your kit, but frankly, there's an easier option to deal Condi DPS, and that is through the Condi DPS Mechanist. The Mechanist is largely known as the noob class in Guild Wars 2, and yeah, I know, it's true, but that being said, the Condi Mechanist does fill the Condi DPS role with an easy to understand rotation, lots of self-utility, and overall a significantly easier to play rotation than the Condi Holosmith. It's arguably the easiest Condi DPS class to play in the entire game. This build runs full Viper's gear with Runes of the Trapper and Relic of the Fractal. It uses Spear with Earth Geomancy and alternate Condi food of Cured Meat Flatbread and Mastered Tuning Crystals. The traits for this build are going to be Explosives 312, Firearms 123, and Mechanist 113, with your primary utilities being Rectifier Signet, Grenade Kit, Superconducting Signet, Shift Signet, and Overclock Signet. Like most Mechanist builds that run almost full Signets, this build is really easy considering you are only dealing with one kit. Lightning Rod and Conduit Surge are your primary spear skills that you want to track alongside Grenade Kit 2, 4, and 5, using Devastator and Focus Devastation off cooldown, and using your Superconducting Signet off cooldown. Try to finish your auto attack chains, and the rest is NPC management, making sure that your mech isn't off in Narnia somewhere and is stacked up with your group. As much as I love the aesthetic of Holosmith, both builds are overly complex. In the right hands, they are extremely rewarding, but I have a hard time recommending them over the easier Scrapper and Mech builds, even if you do get looked at like a noob when you're joining randoms. Moving on to the Boon DPS option, the Engineer has 3 of them, with 2 primary and 1 that is more niche. The first one is a fan favorite and is personally my favorite open world crossover build on the Engineer, which is the Power Quickness Scrapper. This build runs the exact same gear as the Power Scrapper, which is full Berserker gear with Runes of the Scholar and Relic of the Firework. The weapon is going to be Hammer with Force and Impact with standard power food of Sous Vide Steak and Superior Sharpening Stones. Your traits are going to be Explosives 313, Firearms 332, and Scrapper 132, with the same utilities as Power Scrapper, AED, Grenade Kit, Shredder Gyro, throw mine, and mortar kit. The playstyle of this build is nearly identical to the Power Scrapper, except you want to focus on utilizing blast finishers. This comes from your Hammer 3 skill, Function Gyro, and Throw Mine. Your main combo fields are Hammer 5, Function Gyro, Spare Capacitor, or multiple skills in the Mortar Kit. Now let me say, in real fights, chances are you are going to have some kind of combo field to utilize, so don't stress so much about the combo field generation. Just know that they exist. Utilize Hammer 5 into skill 2 and 3, combo with Grenade Kit 2. In real encounters, Necromancers, Mesmers, Guardians, and every other build in the game just dumps combo fields out everywhere. Beyond those key skills, use the rest of your F skills like Grenade Barrage off cooldown, and you can swap Grenade Kit out for Blast Gyro for an extra field, some more might, and some CC if you want. Personally, for the open world, I run Blast Gyro, Shredder Gyro, Throw Mine with Relic of Zakharos. Everything else is identical, and it is such a good build in the open world. You are going to have a lot of sustain and be able to maintain your boons and just run around bashing stuff with your hammer. Now moving on to the new build, the Condi Alac Mechanist. Completely legitimate Alac DPS build, but for some reason the community deemed all Mechanist players to be noobs. So yeah, unlike the GW2 Power Quickness Scrapper, this build runs full Ritualist gear with runes of the Trapper and Relic of the Fractal. It's a unique gear set that will only get used on this build. You run Spear with Geomancy and Bursting, with alternate Condi food being Cured Meat Flatbread and Mastered Tuning Crystals. The traits are going to be Explosives 312, Firearms 123, and a Mechanist 122, with your utilities being Rectifier Signet, Grenade Kit, Bomb Kit, Superconducting Signet, and Overclocking Signet. Pretty much the same priority skills as the Condi Mechanist on Spear, all of your Condi stuff in both Grenade and Bomb Kits, and that's pretty much it. For any mech build, you want to utilize your mech skills off cooldown, so you want to just make sure your mech is not off in the Twilight Zone, and then use those skills every time you can. This build, I would say, is okay overall. It lacks CC, which kind of blows, but for the most part, it's a middle of the road build. I wouldn't hate seeing it on my team, but I understand that the lack of CC on your boon support does kind of bottleneck your choice of healer for most groups. Now I have to mention one of you before I move on. Back when I released the ultimate guide for Guardian, I mentioned the Power Alac Willbender and was like, yo, this is one of two meta Power Alac builds. And one of you absolute units came to my comment section. It was like, hey dummy, Power Alac Mechanist and Power Alac Bladesworn exist. So here we are, the Power Alac Mechanist. Now, to be fair, this build is actually highly viable. The main issue is mech AI, which makes your mech straight up retarded. And I know that's not popular vernacular these days, but I don't think the mech will be offended. For gear, you are going to run a mix of Berserkers and Diviner's gear with runes of the Scholar and Relic of the Thief. Target boon duration is around 30%, and you are going to run Sword Pistol with Shield Offhand. The shield is just for extra CC, and your damage is going to come from sword and pistol, which sword is one of the more fun weapons. To be honest, this build runs Sous Vide Steak and Superior Sharpening Stones. Traits for this build are Explosives 313, Firearms 332, and Mechanist 222, with primary utilities being Rectifier Signet, Elixir Gun, Force Signet, Shift Signet, and Overclocking Signet. Elixir Gun is optional, so if you want an easier build, just run Throw Mine. This build is already easy, but it makes it even easier. This build works the same as the Condi version, with your mech skills being used off cooldown, and I'd say it is better than the Power Alac for Revenant, but not as good as the Willbender or the Chronos Power Alac variants. In terms of ease, sure, the mech build is easy, but it doesn't always mean it's the best. And speaking of mech builds, let's talk about the heal option for the Engineer, which takes the form of the Heal Alacrity Mechanist. Now this build is an older favorite since it was broken when EOD launched. However, it has been toned back and is almost entirely forgotten about now. It's still viable along with the Heal Scrapper, even though neither of them are entirely desirable. I don't think anyone says like, oh yeah, we have a heal mech when talking about Alacrity healers. So keep that in mind. Like always, the heal build runs full Harrier's gear with Runes of the Monk or Minstrel's gear or whatever else. It uses Relic of Caracosa with short bow with transference and paralyzation, or mace shield with the same sigils. You're going to run standard heal food with fruit salad and bountiful maintenance oil, and traits are inventions 123, alchemy 331, and mechanist 223. It utilizes medkit, elixir gun, shift signet, and mortar kit with one utility up for grabs. Barrier signet, throw mine, flamethrower, or any other utility can go here. Personally, I don't like using short bow, so I run with mace shield and it still works, and it's better for fights with CC, so I personally just run mace shield. Overall, the heal mech is an okay healer. It's a legitimate heal build, and it is slightly better than the non-meta healers like Renegade or Willbender. I'm not going to say this is highly desired, but it is capable, and in the right hands can use the engineer's flexibility to work around a ton of mechanics. It's definitely worth picking up if you are a engineer one trick or you just want to try a new Alac healer. And with that, these have been the best builds for engineer in 2024. It is in a decent place, even if it is not the best overall. The next couple of these are going to be kind of rough if I'm being honest, so let me say thank you for watching. Special thanks to all of my subscribers, and if you dig the content, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.